Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Power is neither good nor evil, it simply reveals who can handle it. Sigma females don't go looking for trouble, but somehow they always end up being labeled as the problem. They walk into a room and shift the entire energy without saying a word. They refuse to play the emotional games people expect. They disappear when something no longer serves them, and the moment they show strength without apology, suddenly they're the villain. But is that really the truth, or just the world's way of dealing with a woman who can't be controlled? The reality is people fear what they don't understand, and a Sigma female? She's an enigma. She doesn't need validation, doesn't beg for approval, and doesn't follow the rules just because everyone else does. That alone is enough to make people uneasy. But why does that make her the so-called bad guy? Let's break down the real reasons why people mistake Sigma females for villains, when in reality they're just playing a game most don't even realize exists. Number 1. They have no problem cutting off family. Society loves to preach about the importance of family, but let's be honest. Blood ties don't automatically mean loyalty, respect, or emotional safety. Most people are conditioned to tolerate toxic family members because family is everything. But a Sigma female isn't wired that way. She doesn't believe in keeping people around just because they share DNA. If someone, even a close relative, is draining her energy, crossing her boundaries, or bringing nothing but chaos, she will cut them off without hesitation. And that's exactly why people see her as ruthless. To most, family is supposed to be an unbreakable bond, no matter how unhealthy it gets. People stay in toxic family dynamics out of guilt, obligation, or fear of being judged. But a Sigma female sees things differently. If a person is toxic, manipulative, or constantly disrespectful, it doesn't matter if they're a sibling, a parent, or a cousin. If they're a problem, they're gone. This ability to detach from even the people society says she should tolerate makes her look cold-hearted. People assume she lacks empathy when, in reality, she has an extreme level of self-respect. What really unsettles people is how easily she walks away. There's no dramatic confrontation, no endless back and forth, no begging for change. She doesn't wait for the situation to reach a breaking point. She recognizes toxic patterns early, makes her decision, and moves on. To outsiders, this kind of decisiveness feels unnatural. They expect hesitation, doubt, or at least a little guilt. But she feels none of that. If a relationship, family or not, is costing her peace, she sees no reason to keep it alive. This isn't about being heartless. It's about refusing to sacrifice her well-being for the sake of tradition. She understands that keeping toxic family members around just because they're family is a one-way ticket to emotional exhaustion. She chooses peace over forced loyalty. And in a world where people are programmed to endure toxic relationships just because they share a last name, that level of self-preservation looks downright villainous. But she doesn't care how it looks. She's not here to play by outdated social rules. She's here to protect her energy, even if that means walking away from people who were supposed to be permanent. Number 2, they don't crave a hero-villain narrative. Society thrives on clear-cut labels: good versus evil, right versus wrong, hero versus villain. It makes people feel comfortable when they can categorize someone neatly into one of those boxes. But a Sigma female refuses to play along. She doesn't waste time proving she's a hero, nor does she care if people misinterpret her actions as villainous. She operates in the gray areas, where things aren't black and white, and that deeply unsettles people who rely on simplistic narratives to make sense of the world. Most people are conditioned to believe that if you're not the hero, you must be the villain. They expect a woman to be overly nurturing, self-sacrificing, and eager to be liked. If she isn't constantly proving her kindness, society assumes she must be cold, calculating, or even dangerous. But the Sigma female doesn't waste her energy trying to fit into these roles. She doesn't go out of her way to be liked, and she certainly doesn't care if her actions make her look too independent or too detached. That lack of performative morality makes her unpredictable, and people don't trust what they can't predict. The real reason people struggle with her is that she doesn't let guilt, obligation, or societal pressure dictate her decisions. She will make choices that serve her, even if they don't fit into the standard definition of good. If cutting someone off protects her peace, she'll do it. If walking away from a situation is smarter than staying to prove a point, she won't hesitate. If breaking an unspoken social rule benefits her in the long run, she'll break it without thinking twice. Not because she's cruel, but because she operates on logic and self-preservation, not on empty virtue signaling. What truly confuses people is that she doesn't seek redemption. Most people, when called out or misunderstood, scramble to prove they're good, not a Sigma female. She will let people believe whatever they want because she knows the truth doesn't need a defense. And that terrifies those who need everything to fit into a neat little storyline. Because if she isn't the hero, and she doesn't care about proving she isn't the villain, then what is she? That question alone is enough to keep people on edge. Number 3. They make being underestimated work in their favor. People love to assume. They see a woman who keeps to herself, doesn't boast, and doesn't constantly assert dominance, and they think she must be passive, someone they can overlook, control, or outshine. That's where they make their first and biggest mistake. A Sigma female doesn't waste energy proving her intelligence, strength, or capability up front. She lets people underestimate her because she knows it gives her the ultimate advantage, invisibility. And nothing is more dangerous than an opponent you don't see coming. When people assume she's passive, they get careless. They expose their weaknesses, underestimate her awareness, and assume she's not a threat. That's exactly what she wants. She observes, takes mental notes, and moves strategically while everyone else is busy underestimating her. She knows that the loudest person in the room is usually compensating for something, while the quiet one is paying attention to everything. By the time people realize she was never passive, it's too late. She's already made her move. This is why people see her as calculating or even manipulative. But let's be real. How is it manipulative to let people believe what they want? If someone assumes she's weak, that's their mistake, not hers. She never claimed to be helpless. They just assumed she was because she wasn't putting on a show. That's not deception, that's patience. And in a world where most people act impulsively, patience looks like a secret weapon. What makes her even more unsettling is that she doesn't gloat when she wins. She doesn't rub it in, doesn't scream, "I told you so." She simply takes what she came for and moves on, leaving people stunned, questioning how they didn't see it coming. But that's the thing. Sigma females don't announce their power, they reveal it when necessary. And when that moment comes, it's never loud or dramatic. It's a quiet, effortless checkmate that leaves everyone else scrambling to understand how they lost a game they didn't even realize they were playing. Number 4. They don't play emotional chess because they've already won. Most people thrive on emotional games, silent treatments, guilt trips, strategic compliments, and backhanded insults, all designed to manipulate reactions and establish control. But a Sigma female doesn't bother with any of it. Not because she can't play, but because she's already won before the game even starts. She doesn't need to prove her worth through mind games or subtle power plays because she already knows exactly who she is, and that terrifies people who rely on these tactics to feel powerful. When someone tries to bait her into drama, she doesn't take the hook. If a group subtly excludes her to make her feel unworthy, she genuinely doesn't care. If a person tries to gaslight her into questioning her reality, she just stares at them, unimpressed. People who are used to manipulating emotions hate this because it means they have no leverage over her. They're throwing darts at a wall, hoping something sticks, but she just watches in silence, amused by how hard they're trying. The real reason this unsettles people is that they expect resistance. When someone ignores or belittles another person, they expect them to react, to fight back, seek validation, or try to prove themselves. But a Sigma female refuses to engage. She sees right through the act and simply removes herself from the situation. And nothing frustrates an emotional manipulator more than being met with indifference. They want control, but she gives them nothing to work with. This level of self-assurance makes people label her as cold, distant, or even arrogant. But the truth is, she's just uninterested in wasting energy on battles she's already won. She doesn't need to prove her worth, assert dominance, or beg for respect. She simply exists on a level where emotional games don't reach her. And that's why people find her so intimidating, because no matter what they do, they can't shake her, can't manipulate her, and can't make her question herself. She's untouchable in a way that leaves them frustrated, confused, and powerless. Number 5. They refuse to follow the emotional script. People rely on emotional scripts more than they realize. They expect certain reactions to certain situations, anger when provoked, sadness when insulted, fear when threatened. It's how they gauge control over a situation, how they measure whether their words and actions are having the intended effect. But Sigma females, they don't play by that script. And that's what throws people off. When someone tries to humiliate them, expecting them to shrink in embarrassment, they remain unfazed. When someone tries to provoke them into an argument, waiting for an outburst, they stay silent. When someone expects them to be flattered by a compliment designed to manipulate, they barely acknowledge it. This refusal to give predictable reactions makes people deeply uncomfortable because it strips them of control. They don't know what's coming next. They don't know if their words landed or if they were completely ignored. It's like throwing punches at air. There's no resistance, no impact, just frustration. This unpredictability is often mistaken for emotional detachment. But it's not that they don't feel things. It's that they refuse to be controlled by those feelings. They process emotions on their own terms, not on someone else's timeline. If they're angry, they don't explode. They strategize. If they're hurt, they don't break down. They withdraw and recalibrate. And if they're insulted, they don't seek validation. They simply stop listening. What makes this even more unsettling is that people can't tell if they've won or lost. When someone lashes out, they want to see a reaction. They need confirmation that they had an impact. But a Sigma female won't give them that satisfaction. She'll just tilt her head, maybe smirk, maybe walk away without a word. And that silence, that indifference, it's more powerful than any comeback. Because in that moment, the other person realizes they never had control in the first place. Number 6. They don't chase love or approval. Most people spend their lives chasing something: love, approval, a sense of belonging. They bend, compromise, and exhaust themselves trying to be liked, accepted, or chosen. But a Sigma female, she simply doesn't. Not because she's cold or arrogant, but because she genuinely doesn't see the point. If a connection isn't natural, mutual, and effortless, she won't force it. And in a world where people are conditioned to seek external validation, that kind of self-sufficiency looks almost unnatural. People expect effort in relationships. They expect a woman to prove her worth, to work for attention, to show that she cares through pursuit. But a Sigma female won't chase a friendship, a relationship, or even acknowledgement. If she's interested, she'll show it in her own way, but the moment she senses that she's the only one trying, she lets it go. No drama, no resentment, just a quiet exit. This makes people uncomfortable because they're used to others trying harder, fighting to be seen or fearing rejection. But she doesn't fear it. She welcomes it, because to her, rejection is just redirection. The irony is that this lack of neediness makes people want her more. Humans are wired to chase what they can't easily have, and a Sigma female is the living embodiment of that. She isn't unavailable in a performative way. She's genuinely content with or without anyone. That kind of independence is rare, and it throws people off balance. They start questioning why she doesn't need them, why she isn't reacting the way others do, why she isn't affected by the usual games. And that's when admiration turns into frustration. People confuse self-sufficiency with heartlessness, but they couldn't be more wrong. Sigma females love deeply, but they love with standards. They form connections, but only with those who truly align with them. They care, but they won't beg. And that's what unsettles people the most. Not that she's incapable of love, but that she refuses to trade her dignity to receive it. Number 7. They dismantle illusions with brutal honesty. Most people live in carefully constructed illusions, lies they tell themselves to feel better, to avoid accountability, or to keep up appearances. They surround themselves with people who will nod along, validate their delusions, and keep them comfortable. But a Sigma female? She refuses to play that role. She won't pretend someone's bad decisions are wise. She won't fake enthusiasm for a relationship that's obviously toxic. And she definitely won't sit there and watch someone sabotage themselves without saying a word. Her honesty isn't cruel, it's necessary. But because society thrives on politeness over truth, people aren't used to it. They expect others to coddle them, soften the edges, and make reality easier to digest. A Sigma female won't do that. If she sees someone lying to themselves, she'll call it out, and that's where the trouble starts. Because when someone isn't ready to face the truth, they don't appreciate the person delivering it. Instead of self-reflection, they lash out. Instead of gratitude, they hold grudges. And because the truth stings, they convince themselves that she's the problem, not the illusion they were living in. People respect honesty when it confirms what they already believe, but they resent it when it challenges their comfort. And a Sigma female challenges comfort in the most direct way possible. She won't dress up her words to be more palatable. She won't deliver the truth in a way that strokes someone's ego. She says it plainly, without theatrics, and that's exactly what makes her so polarizing. Some will admire her for it, but others will twist her words, call her harsh, insensitive, or even cruel. The irony is, she doesn't say these things to hurt people. She says them because she values authenticity over false harmony. She'd rather someone hate her for telling the truth than love her for feeding a lie. And that's why people often villainize her. Because deep down, they know she's right. But accepting that would mean confronting parts of themselves they'd rather keep hidden. So instead of facing reality, they make her the enemy. Number 8. They don't believe in playing nice just to be liked. Most people are conditioned to play the social game, smiling when they don't mean it, making empty compliments and engaging in small talk just to keep up appearances. It's the unspoken rule of society. Be agreeable, even if it's fake. But a Sigma female, she rejects that entirely. She has no interest in saying things she doesn't mean, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, or pretending to care about conversations that bore her to death. And that's exactly why people misunderstand her. In a world where surface-level politeness is often mistaken for genuine kindness, her bluntness is jarring. If she doesn't like someone, she won't fake it. If she's not interested in a conversation, she won't force herself to engage. If she doesn't respect someone, no amount of social pressure will make her act like she does. This refusal to play nice makes people uncomfortable because it exposes just how much of social interaction is built on insincerity. People call her cold, but in reality, she's just honest. She believes respect should be real, not performative. She won't pretend to like someone just to avoid awkwardness, and she won't entertain meaningless interactions just to fill the silence. To her, fake kindness is worse than no kindness at all, because at least with the latter, there's honesty. This is why some people resent her. They expect flattery, validation, or at the very least, social compliance. But she gives them nothing unless she genuinely means it. And while some admire her for it, others take it personally. Because deep down, they know their own social niceties are often just a mask, and nothing unsettles people more than someone who refuses to wear one. Number 9. They know when to disappear. Most people struggle to walk away. They stay in draining relationships, force dead conversations, and keep connections alive out of obligation rather than genuine interest. But a Sigma female, she has no such problem. The moment she senses a situation is no longer serving her, whether it's a friendship, a job, a social circle, or even a conversation, she detaches and disappears. No long-winded explanations, no dramatic farewell, no guilt-tripping, just gone. This ability unnerves people because it's rare. Most expect closure, a reason, or at least a signal that someone is about to leave. But she doesn't believe in unnecessary goodbyes. She trusts her instincts, and if something feels off, she doesn't waste time debating whether she should stay. She simply removes herself. And because people are used to others clinging to situations long past their expiration date, her sudden absence feels almost inhuman. What makes this even more unsettling is that she never looks back. She won't resurface months later seeking closure. She won't drop hints that she misses what she left behind. Once she's done, she's done. And that level of detachment makes people question whether she ever cared in the first place. The truth? She did care, deeply. But she values herself more than any situation that drains her, and she won't stay somewhere just to make other people comfortable. This is why people sometimes view her as mysterious, calculating, or even ruthless. They assume she must have been planning her exit all along, as if she's playing some strategic game. But she's not. She simply refuses to explain herself when she knows she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. And in a world where people struggle to let go, her ability to vanish without a trace makes her seem like she's operating on a completely different wavelength, one that others can't understand, and that's exactly why they fear it. Number 10. They expose people without saying a word. Some people walk into a room and blend in. A Sigma female walks in, and suddenly people start fidgeting, over-explaining, or throwing subtle jabs her way. Why? Because without saying a single word, she forces people to confront things they'd rather keep hidden. Weak people feel small in her presence, not because she belittles them, but because she doesn't pander to insecurity. Manipulators realize their usual tricks won't work on her, so they scramble to regain control. And fake people? They feel exposed because her authenticity makes their performance look ridiculous. The unsettling part is that she doesn't even try to expose anyone. She's not out to make people uncomfortable. She just exists as she is. But the way she carries herself, the way she refuses to engage in shallow nonsense, the way she doesn't seek approval, it shines a light on those who do. People who rely on validation, manipulation, or pretense suddenly feel naked around her. And that's when the projection starts. Instead of facing their own discomfort, they flip the narrative. She's cold. She's intimidating. She thinks she's better than everyone else. In reality, she hasn't done anything except refuse to shrink herself to make others feel better. What really drives people crazy is that they can't get a reaction out of her. Most people, when faced with insecurity-driven hostility, will either over-explain, apologize, or try to smooth things over. A Sigma female does none of that. If someone projects their insecurities onto her, she just watches. She doesn't argue, doesn't justify herself, doesn't play into the drama, and that silence, that unbothered energy, it sends people into a spiral. Because deep down, they know she sees them for who they are, and nothing terrifies insecure people more than being truly seen. That's why instead of admitting their own discomfort, they paint her as the villain. It's easier to demonize someone than to do the hard work of self-reflection. But the truth is, she's not the problem. She's just the mirror, and people don't always like what they see staring back at them. Number 11. They're too powerful to be a victim. Society has a strange relationship with strength. It claims to admire resilience. But the moment someone, especially a woman, proves she doesn't need rescuing, people start to get uncomfortable. A Sigma female never plays the victim, no matter how unfair life gets. She doesn't seek sympathy, doesn't broadcast her struggles for attention, and doesn't wait for someone to come and fix things for her. She just handles it. Quietly, efficiently. And that level of self-sufficiency, it unsettles people. Most are conditioned to believe that women should at times lean into vulnerability, not necessarily because they're weak, but because it makes them more relatable. They're expected to seek comfort, to let others step in and play the hero. But a Sigma female refuses to perform that role. If she's struggling, she figures it out. If she's hurt, she processes it privately. If she falls, she gets up, alone. There's no dramatic breakdown, no desperate plea for validation. Just silence, followed by action. This refusal to be weak threatens those who rely on traditional power dynamics. Some men, who are used to feeling needed, don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't require saving. Some women, who bond over shared struggles, find her independence almost offensive. Instead of being inspired, they resent her for proving that strength is a choice. And when people can't control or categorize someone, they do the next best thing. They villainize her. She's too cold. She's emotionless. She's ruthless. These labels don't come from reality. They come from discomfort. Because when a woman refuses to be weak, refuses to fold, and refuses to seek permission for her power, people don't know whether to admire her or fear her. And for many, fear is the easier option. Call her what you want. A mystery, a threat, a villain. But the truth is, a Sigma female is none of those things. She just refuses to conform, refuses to play games, and refuses to water herself down to make others comfortable. And in a world that thrives on labels and control, that makes her dangerous. Not because she is, but because people don't know how to handle someone they can't manipulate, predict, or define. The irony? She's not out to prove anything to anyone. She doesn't need to be liked, doesn't need to be feared, and certainly doesn't need validation from those who don't understand her. She moves on her own terms, in her own lane, and lets the world say whatever it wants. Because at the end of the day, she knows the truth. Villains are just heroes who refuse to be controlled. And if that makes her the so-called bad guy, she'll wear the title with a smirk and keep moving forward, like she always does. If this hit differently, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, because this is just the beginning. Like the video, if you felt that energy, drop a comment and let me know your thoughts, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Let's keep building this unstoppable mindset, one truth bomb at a time.